She blinded me with science. Science. That's the big word these days, isn't it? Science says this, science proves that. Science has all the answers. Science will one day explain everything. Science disproves God. Well, first of all, science doesn't say anything. Scientists do, which means a person has to interpret data or evidence. But hey, I know what people generally mean when they say science says, so I'll go along with it for the sake of simplicity. But let's at least make sure that when we say science, we're talking about the same thing. Pop over to the dictionary.com, circa 2022, you'll get these definitions. 1, a branch of knowledge or study dealing with a body of facts or truths systematically arranged and showing the operation of general laws. 2, systematic knowledge of the physical or material world gained through observation and experimentation. Okay, I'll accept those if you will. Makes sense, sounds good. But notice 2 things here. 1, showing the operation of general laws means the general laws must already be here to show. And observation and experimentation both require preconditions of intelligibility. Pre-what, you say? Just another way of saying that there are certain things that must already be in place, that must exist, and certain assumptions we make in order for us to do science at all. For instance, and bear with me here, science requires 1, a human being with a properly functioning brain and basically reliable senses, right? I mean, that's pretty important, but why do we suppose that our eyes, noses, and other senses reliably report stuff about the universe? Without this assumption, science would be impossible. Likewise, without our memories being basically reliable, we can't do science. 2, science requires the laws of nature to be orderly and consistent, right? If the laws of nature aren't consistent, like let's say the properties of gravity change every 3 seconds or something, you can't accurately test or repeat anything. Thus, there's no meaningful observation or experimentation. Thus, thou canst do science. 3, science requires laws of logic. Without them, you can't analyze ideas, reason properly, or determine what data or evidence means. Without them, simply put, you can't do science. 4, science requires objective morality. If you are in any way tempted to let greed, power, prestige, fame, or whatever alter the truth or get in the way of honest observation, experimentation, or truthful recording, then science would be a mess. Yet, why you ought to be truthful, why you ought to record data accurately, must be a virtue that exists before you can do meaningful science. Hey, look, simple fact is this. Without just these 4 preconditions, and there are others, there is no quote-unquote science, period. But here's the big cue for you. What worldview best explains these preconditions? Because in the end, a correct worldview must be logically consistent and be able to explain these preconditions. And there's only one that does. Follow along and dig what I dish out. Genesis 1:26 through 27, Romans 1:20, and Psalm 139:14 declare an all-knowing, all-powerful God made us in His image, and that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. This is why our senses are basically reliable. Jeremiah 33:25 and Colossians 1:17 declare He established His covenant with day and night in the fixed order of heaven and earth, and that He is before all things, and in Him all things hold together. This is why the universe is orderly and consistent. Isaiah 1:18 and Proverbs 22:17 call for us to reason together and to apply your mind to my knowledge. And 2 Timothy 2:13 adds, if we are faithless, He remains faithful, for He cannot deny Himself. This is where the laws of logic emanate, from the mind of a rational God. In Titus 1:2 it says, in hope of eternal life, which God, who never lies, promised before the ages began. This is where objective morality flows from, the very nature of God, who cannot be inconsistent, deny Himself, or lie. These are the non-arbitrary reasons Bible believers provide for the preconditions of intelligibility. Now, on atheism, on materialism, on evolutionism, if that's a word, how are these accounted for? How does accidental non-life produce life, let alone life with reliable senses? How does chaos cause order? How can laws of logic exist in a strictly material world? How do random mutations make morality? See, they really don't have logical, consistent answers. In fact, as Dr. Jason Lisle asserts, the logical prerequisites for knowledge, which most people take for granted, are provided only in biblical creation and would be impossible in an evolutionary or atheistic universe. So, there it is, my quasi-qualified questioners, quickly quizzing quantitative qualified quizzes quite quietly. There's only one worldview that is rational, logical, and best accounts for the preconditions of intelligibility on which science depends, and that, my friends, is the biblical worldview. So, this here notion, this here idea that science has somehow disproved God has been, like poetry in motion, debunked. Adios.